My name is Irma Cota, and I'm the President and Chief Executive Officer of North County Health Services. My childhood was in a rural small town. It is a border town. It's called Calexico. And my early childhood I spent going across the border to Mexicali and living in Calexico. So in that sense, it was a very rich culture for me to have both countries, both worlds. My mother was she did all kinds of work, like house cleaning, worked at a bar, and was also a farm worker. By the time I was 12 years old, I started helping her in the fields on the weekends and summers and springtime. In addition to that, I went to Catholic school, flunked first grade. Flunked first grade because I didn't speak English at home, so the language was more difficult for me. So my reading was not as good as it should be. So I would say that the difficulties was probably not having the kinds of things that other kids would have when were dreaming and thinking about what would life be if you guys have a car. You get used to after a while, so they don't necessarily become difficulties. They're just what it is and how it is, and you accept that. We would plan our summer trips to go work in the fields in Salinas. She would always tell us about how much money we needed to earn and why we needed to earn the money to pay for school, to pay for rent, food, how to plan about life and money, and how to spend money and save money and think about the future were very valuable lessons. And my mother imparted in me and my sister, and one of the things she always told us is that we could go far with an education. And when we were working in the fields, my sister and I have always been sort of taller than we would appear to be for the age. And the people that my mother worked with in the fields would tell her, we seemed to be old enough. Why did she have us in school? Why weren't we working full time with her in the fields? And she would say, I want my children to be somebody. I want them to get an education. At that point, when my mother was talking about getting an education, she meant high school, because she herself had to drop out of school when she was a second grader. And so for us, what we had in mind was getting a high school education and becoming secretaries, bank tellers. We didn't have too much idea about what we would do with that. I was very fortunate that working in the fields, my aunt introduced me to the United Farm Workers. And we started volunteering with the United Farm Workers, and I found out that they had a free clinic for the farm workers. And I started volunteering there. And at that volunteer work, I met doctors and nurses and lab technicians and pharmacists and pre-med students, social workers. That experience began to open my eyes to other career possibilities. And at the same time, I didn't know whether I could do that, because I knew that if you went to college, you needed money. So as a junior in high school, still volunteering when I could at the United Farm Worker Clinic in Calexico, my mother had a condition that she was diagnosed with terminal cancer. And it was a condition that was already quite advanced. So through my experience and the people I knew at the free clinic in Calexico, the director of nurses came to my house and taught me how to give my mother her shots. My mother, I remember her saying, you would make a great nurse. And so it was like the beginning of thinking, well, maybe healthcare might be something that I'm interested in. At that point, I didn't know what it would be. My mother did die when I was a junior in high school. And then I became eligible for Social Security. So I had some sorts of income to sustain myself. And so that gave me an idea, well, I could go to college. If I have this kind of assistance or Social Security and I can work and do work study, then I can afford to go to college. When I first graduated from San Diego State with a degree in health science, I had been talking to my mentor, an advisor at the university, and I had been said I wanted to do something meaningful. And he said to me, you've worked with the United Farm Workers throughout college, you volunteered at free clinics here in San Diego. You should know that there's a health center they just started several years ago that services primarily the farm worker. And he says, you might find that that's a good fit for you. So he says, I'll put you in touch. The person that runs it graduated from San Diego State. I think they're looking for a health educator. So that's how I started at North County Health Services. The North County Health Services was serving the population that I wanted to serve, which is the migrant families, migrant children. I've been very fortunate that I have been recognized in doing the work that I do and being of service, because oftentimes you hear people being recognized where you're the rock stars or the team players, the football players, basketball players. So I've been very fortunate that people, organizations have seen the work that I've done on behalf of North County Health Services, on behalf of our patients. So I've been very fortunate to think about what have been some of the recognition. One of them is the Union Tribune gave me the Health Hero, the Latino Health Hero Award. That was very special. There was another award that the San Diego Business Journal gave me, a woman who means business. That was also very cherishable. And I think the one that's going to take the icing on the cake is this April I'm going to receive from San Diego State the Cesar Chavez Lifetime Achievement Award. And that, to me, that really encapsulates, I think, the awards that I've received, because all along my role and my job and my desire has been to improve the lives of the working poor, and nothing else says working poor like, the Cesar Chavez Award. I think that as youngsters, and as you're choosing your career, what you want to do in life, you should always think about what's going to be meaningful to you. Is it going to make a difference not just to you in your life, but in the life of others? So having a mission and a vision for yourself and what you want to do is critical. And it just so happens that I'm lucky that North County Health Services represents to me my own personal mission and vision of what public health should be. So my advice to you, again, is be true to yourself and find that meaningful thing you're going to do in life. People really stop and think about themselves and what they want to be in the future, what they want to do in the future in terms of meaningful. As a teenager like you, I used to ask myself, why did God put me on earth?